Ladies and gentlemen, please find your seats. The ceremony will begin shortly. We ask that you silence all electronic devices for the duration of the event. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the retirement ceremony for Colonel Thomas A. Goettke. Our host for today is Colonel Retired R.J. Lillybridge. I would like to recognize our distinguished guests for today's ceremony. Colonel Retired Timothy Sullivan. Colonel Andrew Harris, Executive Officer to the 18th Airborne Corps Commander. To all commanders, command sergeants, major, and the families and friends of the retiree, welcome to a very special day as we retire Colonel Thomas A. Goettke from active duty. This ceremony is held to honor those individuals who have served our country with distinction. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the invocation given by Lillian Goettke and remain standing for the singing of the national anthem.
Lord, thank you for bringing us together on this beautiful day to celebrate a lifetime of service to our nation. Bless those who travel great distances to be here today. Your presence here amplifies the importance of sacrifice, shared hardship, and camaraderie as you served alongside Colonel Goettke. Lord, continue to keep watch over the families of our service members who silently stand in every formation of our armed forces. We would not be able to do our jobs without the silent army. Finally, pray for our elected officials who make difficult decisions to send our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines into harm's way. May they lead with dignity and prudence and continue to guide their hand as they lead the greatest nation on earth. Amen.
Oh, behind you.
Please be seated. Colonel Thomas A. Goettke graduated from the United States Military Academy as a field artillery officer in May of 2000. His first assignment as a second lieutenant was at the academy as a graduate assistant coach for the Army football team. After the officer basic course, airborne and ranger school, he was assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 17th Field Artillery Camp in Hovey, South Korea. During this tour, he also served with 1st Battalion, 506th Infantry at Camp Greaves, South Korea. After Korea, Colonel Goettke was assigned to Bravo Company 3rd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment in Fort Benning, Georgia, serving as the company's fire support officer for 3 combat deployments. After the captain's career course, Colonel Goettke was then assigned to the 3rd Battalion, 320th Field Artillery, 3rd Brigade Combat Team, Rakkasan, 101st Airborne Division. While deployed, Colonel Goettke was transitioned to become the Battalion Fire Support Officer for the 1st Battalion, 187th Infantry, Leader Rakkasans, and later took command of the Delta Committee Dragons. 1st Battalion, 187th Infantry. After a successful command, he then took command of Alpha Battery Gators, 3rd Battalion, 320th Field Artillery, 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 101st Airborne Division. After another successful command, he was awarded the Joint Chiefs of Staff's Officer of the Secretary of Defense internship and moved to Washington, D.C. There he attended Georgetown University and served both on the Joint Staff and the Army staff, working directly now for the Secretary Lloyd Austin and the late General Raymond Odierno. After his Pentagon tour, he was reassigned to 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 101st Airborne Division, serving as a Brigade Fire Support Officer. Battalion S3 and Brigade Executive Officer, again deploying twice to Afghanistan. Colonel Goettke was then assigned to the J-35 Rapid Reaction Corps, France, a French NATO headquarters located in Lille, France. In May 2017, he took command of 3rd Battalion, 6th Field Artillery, 1st Brigade Combat Team, 10th Mountain Division, and was later assigned to be the Assistant Chief of Staff for G3 for the 10th Mountain Division. After the War College, Colonel Goettke was assigned to the People First Task Force in the Army Secretariat as the Operations and Training Officer. In June 2022, he took command of the 10th Mountain Division Artillery, Mountain Thunder. Colonel Goettke's military education includes Airborne School, Ranger School, Air Assault School, Master Fitness Trainer, Combative School Level 1 and 2, Officer Basic Course, NATO Staff Officer Course, Officer Advanced Course, NATO Planners Course, Battalion and Brigade Pre-Command courses. Colonel Goettke holds a Bachelor of Science in Economics from the United States Military Academy, a Master's of Arts degree in Management and Leadership from Webster University, a Master of Arts degree in Policy Management from Georgetown University, a Master's degree in National Security from the Naval War College, and a Master's degree in Strategic Studies from the United States Army War College. Colonel Goettke's awards and decorations include Legion of Merit with Bronze Oak Leaf Cluster, Bronze Star Medal, 1 silver and 1 bronze oak leaf cluster, the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, the Meritorious Service Medal with silver oak leaf cluster, Army Commendational Medal, 2 oak leaf clusters, Army Achievement Medal, 4 bronze oak leaf clusters, National Defense Service Medal, Korean Defense Service Medal, Armed Forces Service Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal, Iraq Campaign Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Overseas Service Ribbon, numeral 4, NATO Medal, Notorious Unit Citation, Valorous Unit Award, Superior Unit Award, Combat Action Badge, the Rangers Tab, the Parachutist Badge, Air Assault Badge, the Joint Staff Identification Badge, the Army Staff Badge, and the Field Artillery's Ancient Order of St. Barbara Award. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former commander of the 187th Infantry Regiment, Colonel Retired R.J. Lillybridge.
Hopefully this RJ can do as well as our first RJ. So first off, thanks Tom for inviting me to be here today. I was going to try to walk around a room and do this, and I know I would fail, so I'm going to hide behind a podium. In June, Tom reached out to me after he came out of command up at 10th Mountain. Of course, I made time for him, ready myself, because I thought he was calling me up for advice. Hey, get out of the Army, what do you do, that kind of stuff. That's what I thought he was calling me about. And so we spoke shortly thereafter. I was in 100% coaching mode because I thought that's why Tom wanted to talk. And he humored me for a little bit, and then kind of out of the blue, he cut me off because he had a meeting to go to or something. And he asked me, just kind of ambushed me. He said, would you come up here and speak at his retirement? And really, I never expected it. I love Tom. I love Tom, but Tom's worked for some big dudes in his life, and you know, I was just floored that he asked me to be here today. Of course, I said yes, and honestly, super humbled to be up here to talk about Tom today. And some people might think that's weird because I was his boss a couple times, but that's everybody knows that's what Tom's like. Just super happy to be here. We were talking yesterday. The Army says, you know, somebody in my capacity gets to talk for 5 minutes up here. I'm going to exceed that a little bit today, but it's not going to be like 55 minutes. But you know, everybody out here, you know, friends and family, y'all know Tom. Y'all know he served in the Army. I'm going to talk about some things that, you know, you probably don't know about Tom in his career. Some humorous, some very serious, but just to talk about him. And Heather, I really hope I don't surprise you with any of this, but there may be one or two. But it is what it is. I've known Tom since 2006, 18 years now, and it seems like yesterday. What do I think of Tom? He's intense, he's smart, he's fit, he's a great leader who cares, and he's very humble. And did I mention he's intense? Pretty intense. And I mean all of those as compliments. Tom and I first met back in 2006, the 101st. We had all just come back from Iraq, kind of resetting. Tom had taken command of a rifle company in the infantry battalion that I was taking command of. Now, key point is it's an infantry battalion. I'm a retired infantry officer. Tom is not. Tom's an artilleryman. Tom's not supposed to be commanding an infantry battalion. You know, but that's okay. We did things. There's not a lot of people in 1187 who were in the right position by branch either. But but Tom was a stud, and you know, a couple months into command, I gave a call to Tim Sullivan, Brigade XO, and I'm kind of like, hey, I'm kind of confused. I said, Tom Goettke might be my best company commander. He's the artillery guy. Of course, Tim joked, you know, yeah, he might be the best commander in the brigade. I was like, okay. I recognized that right away, but a neat thing about Tom is all of Tom's peers as captains, they all knew Tom was the best also. They all joked that they were going to work for him someday. And that's just a huge credit, but it wasn't because Tom was bravado or obnoxious or anything like that. Tom was just better than all the other captains. And his peers respected him for it. They knew it, they joked about it, but it was all compliments. You know, so that's something about Tom. So Tom is a commander, and I'm sure he experienced this when he was a battalion brigade commander. When you're a commander, it's really easy to sit in an office in the Army and get mad at the world because bad things happen. And I always tell people when they go to command battalions, you know, hey, if you get frustrated in your office with email, bad phone call, whatever, walk out of your office and go see what your soldiers are doing. So sometime that winter, I had that moment in my office. I walked out and I go walking towards Tom's company. And I see some privates out there, and they're being privates. They're just kind of huddled around, and they don't look like they have a clue what's going on. It was the afternoon. I got a little frustrated, so I walked over and I said, hey, what's up? What are you guys doing? And Private First Class Van Boven, one of the youngest guys, newest guys in Delta Company, turns around and he's like, sir, right now we're going to start drawing weapons in 15 minutes. At 1600 hours, you're getting on trucks, you're going out the training area, whatever. We're going to have hot chow when we get out there at 1800 hours tonight. And then we're going to do night training on this, that, the other thing. And I was stunned. There's not a lot of privates who are ever going to tell you that. But the other side of it is, it told me Tom had a plan. Tom had disseminated the plan to all of his lieutenants, his platoon sergeants, and they'd all disseminated down to this 20-year-old private first class who knew exactly what was going on. You can trust me, that does not happen very often. Doesn't. And Tom's never heard this before. And that happened 18 years ago, and it's something that I smile about to this day, that PFC Van Boven out there knew what was going on. Just huge credit to Tom as a commander and as a leader, and to his subordinate leaders he had at that time. And that's just a little thing that just says something about Tom. That spring in 2007, when we were going back to Iraq in September of 2007, the commanders, not Tom, Lieutenant Colonel Piers and myself, we all did a recon to Iraq. And we went to the area that we're going to work in. And the area that we went into was incredibly violent at that time, spring of 2007. And so I met my counterpart, guy named Lieutenant Colonel John Valador, and we spent a couple days together. And I said, okay, John, I want your advice. You know, which company commanders do I put where? And he said, Sada Yusufia is the hardest fight, it's the most complex fight. You put your best commander there. I said, my best commander commands Delta Company, my smallest company. He said, doesn't matter, put your best commander there. And so Tom and Delta Company went to Sada Yusufia. John Valador's recommendation, I probably told you that, did I? No. I'm sorry about that one. And so, you know, that's why Tom went there. And his peers went to other places, and it was incredibly complex. You know, that's just, you know, my trust and confidence in Tom. That summer, and this is another example of Tom. Tom knows this, I think Tim Sullivan, some others probably know this. I'm kind of big about Ranger School. The only school I cared about as a commander in the Army was Ranger School. I didn't care about any other schools. And in 1187, we produced more enlisted Rangers than any brigade in the 101st Airborne Division. So our little battalion produced more than brigades that had 3 infantry battalions. And in August, PFC Van Boven, who had been such a stud to me that winter, knew what was going on. He graduates pre-Ranger School. And he's, I think he was on a pre-Ranger, may have been, may not. And we're excited about it, and Tom looks at me and he's like, it's bad luck, huh? You're a sir? I'm like, what? He said, well, Van Boven just graduated Ranger School, but he can't go to Ranger School. He graduated pre-Ranger, but he can't go to Ranger School. I'm like, what do you mean you can't go to Ranger School? And Tom's like, sir, we're leaving for Iraq in 30 days. And I was like, oh, Tom, so you're telling me Private First Class Van Boven is gonna make or break Delta Company in Iraq, and you need to bring a private to Iraq. We can't send him to Ranger School. Tom's like, nope, he's going to Ranger School. I'm like, hey, good to go. And to Van Boven's credit, he graduated in 3 months, did not recycle, was out like around Christmas time and trying to get on the first flight back to Iraq. And we let him stay there and gain a little weight because Ranger Van Boven's about this tall. Good young man. So we go to Iraq, and Tom's a brave dude. We all recognize that. He's a pretty intense dude. So we're in Iraq. Tom's in this place called Sada Yusufia, and I don't know if you reached out to me or somebody else, but I had to go to some meeting across the Tigris River. And everybody's heard of the Tigris, right? From ancient history. It's not like the cartoons that we looked at when we were in elementary school and middle school. It's kind of nasty river, maybe 100 yards wide, maybe it's about that. And I had to go to a meeting across the river with some tribal sheikh or something like that, and I had to go across this bridge, and I hadn't seen it yet, and so I go out to see Tom, and I'm like, okay, whatever, hey, what's up with this bridge? And Tom gets nose to nose with me. He's like, it's the scariest effing thing I've ever done. You know about the bridge? Heather, do you know about the bridge? You do not. Like I said, you might be surprised. And so I'm kind of spooked now because Tom's a tough dude. He's an intense dude. I've never seen him scared before. Tom Goettke's telling me this is the scariest thing he's ever done. And we went out, and yeah, I mean, if you can imagine the third world building a bridge across the Tigris River out of 55-gallon drums that are kind of chained, soldered together, that we're going to drive 17-ton Humvees over, yeah. I kind of agreed with Tom on that one, and I don't know why.
At night under dogs.
You did it at night under dogs. I did it in daylight. It's also the first time I ever heard the phrase, hold my beer, watch this, as my lead did. So, but we did it. But, during those 15 months in Iraq, Tom did an awesome job in Sada Yusufia. And I know zero soldiers killed, and nobody wanted. Which is a huge credit to Tom and his leadership. And because he was an artilleryman, I said yes to this. And I think, did I ever try to convince you to branch infantry? See, I didn't. I had other people do it for me. I didn't think I did. But I'm a selfish infantryman. Tom was a great officer. And it's like, he's commanding an infantry company, let's make him an infantryman. Because I made 2 of his peers infantrymen later that year who weren't infantrymen. But I had other people reach out to Tom because I didn't want to influence it. And Tom was like, nope, I'm going to be an artilleryman. And Brother Sullivan's probably happy that I didn't. I left some good guys in the artillery. But then Tom went off and gave up command of Delta Company in Iraq, took command of Alpha Battery and our support in our artillery battalion, and commanded equally well in combat. And so, I mean, Tom just did awesome as captain in combat. And he had been on previous combat tours before that. So we get back from Iraq. Tom gets selected to be a Joint Chiefs of Staff intern. You don't have an appreciation for that. 20 selected a year? 10. 20? Really small number. They didn't give Sullivan or they didn't let us fill out applications for the program. You know, they let Tom get selected for it. And huge credit to Tom. Huge credit to Tom. So he's doing that. In 2011, I took command of 3rd Brigade of the 101st. And Tom was in his 2nd year of his fellowship. 2012, Tom's going to be able to come back out to the Army. And I'm like, and I can't remember if I reached out to you or had somebody else, because Heather, I did not want to put. Did you? Okay. Oh, I'm totally innocent in this one. But we were going back to Iraq in 2012, and we had all been to combat a bunch, and I was very hesitant to ask people, you know, if they want to come and work for me again, knowing they're going back to combat. It is what it is. You know, Tim Sullivan made a recommendation to me about somebody one time in an email. I said, hey, great, got it. You want to be my deputy? And they didn't answer me for a week. And I'm like, okay, hey, I'm sorry. You know, Kate doesn't want to go back to combat again. And he corrected me. But Tom reached out, wanted to come back to the Rock Sons. So you think a colonel, this is Tom, big, powerful guy, just commanded 10th Mountains Division Artillery. But colonels in the Army in command don't get to pick any of their people. You may be surprised about that. You're in the private sector, you pick who works for you. There's not somebody telling you who's coming to work for you. Army colonels, the only thing they get to pick are majors. And you get to pick about 6, maybe 8 a year. That's it. The Army tells you who your lieutenants are, your captains are, your lieutenant colonels. The only thing you get to pick is majors. And I was pretty focused on that, because majors are super important in brigades. And so Tim Sullivan was our deputy at that time, one of my best friends in the world. It's like, okay, all that matters for majors is we get Goettke. That's all I care about. Get Goettke. Everything was built, and you didn't know this, did you? I told you I'd embarrass you a little bit. And so, but it was all about getting Tom. And so we had to do a bunch of beer math, and Tim comes in my office one day, and he gives me this recommendation for majors. And I'm scratching my head because some weird things in it. One of the weirdest ones is that when we go to Iraq, I'm going to have an artilleryman as my brigade operations officer. I'm an infantry guy. I don't want an artillery guy to be my operations officer. And I challenged Tim on that. He's like, we have to do this to get Goettke. I was like, okay, approved. So we got it. And we kind of disseminated the majors coming in. And my operations sergeant major, a guy named Kirk Hines, and he's going to work with the operations officer. And Kirk's an infantry guy, an airborne ranger, all this kind of stuff. He finds out he's going to be working with an artillery major. And he comes in my office and he's upset. And he's like, and I threw him out of the office. I'm like, I don't care. I knew why. He's like, I can't believe you're going to have an artilleryman. I'm like, great, got it, thank you, get out. I don't care what you think. And that went on, and probably once every 2 weeks, Kirk Hines would be like, he'd be griping about what was going to happen that summer, and he was going to have an artillery boss. I just threw him out. Summer of 2012, you know, Tom got to us in August, I think, and I was going to apologize today because I didn't think you even unpack boxes with Heather. Heather reminded me today that y'all didn't.
Heather lived back here.
I know.
So I slept under my desk
forgot.
until we deployed.
And so Tom literally gets to Fort Campbell, and I sent him to Iraq sometime in August of 2012. And I got over there 2-3 weeks later. You know, Tom's been in Iraq, because it takes 45 days to deploy a brigade to, Afghanistan. I'm in Afghanistan first night, second night I'm there. Kirk Hines, the guy that'd been complaining left and right because he was going to have to work for an artilleryman, comes walking in my office, plops down. He just looks at me, he's like, I get it. I'm like, you get what? He's like, Goettke. I'm like, oh! Now you trust me again. You haven't trusted me for 6 months. He's like, Goettke. I'm like, good, get out, thank you. I appreciate it. You probably remember that happened. And so, but it took Tom a week to convince a curmudgeonous sergeant major how good and how talented he was. I forgot something, but I'm not going to go there. No, I skipped that one. So we're in Afghanistan, and it's a violent place. There's a war going on. This is 12 years ago. And there was a combat outpost along the Pakistani border. And it was on the Pakistani border. If you looked at a map, yeah, it's right there on the Pakistani border. The issue is that nobody recognized that border except the United States, and NATO, people like that. The Taliban didn't pay attention to that border. The Pakistanis, they didn't pay attention to that border. It's just out there. It's fake. It's on Western maps. That's it. And every week, that patrol base, I'm intentionally not using the name, that patrol base took rockets from Pakistan, and the Americans didn't shoot back because you can't shoot across the international border. And I kept going out visiting the soldiers out there, trying to help them with the fight, and they had all these rocket fins thrown in boxes in the back of the combat outpost. There's about 100 Americans out there, and they're just eating rockets from Pakistan. And so I got pretty upset about it. And by the way, my peers had tolerated this for 3, 4, 5 years, just letting Americans get shot at. So I got unpolitical with the general officers that we worked for, and they kept being bureaucrats to me, how hard it was, legal, this, that, the other thing. Like, hey, you got some policy, you got some PowerPoint slides, tell me what the heck I gotta do. So they threw me this 25-page PowerPoint presentation of legal reviews and all this kind of crap. They finally gave it to me. Here's the test. Now I have to get the answers to the test. I got it, I threw it at Tom. I was like, Tom, I want to shoot into Pakistan. We know where we're getting shot at by the Taliban and Al-Qaeda and the rest of them. I want to shoot into Pakistan. This is supposedly how we do it. Get me to yes. Tom's like, Roger, he leaves. 4 or 5 days later, I'm like, hey, Tom, how's it going? He's like, sure, this one's hard. I'm like, okay. First time I've ever seen Goettke frustrated. About a week later, Tom comes back in my office one night, drops this binder on my desk. He's like, we can shoot into Pakistan. I'm like, huh? I'm like, how big is it? It's like 45 slides, 47 slides, some military bureaucracy. I'm like, dude, tomorrow. He's like, we're shooting tomorrow. We shot at what we knew to shoot at in Pakistan the next day. That patrol base never took a rocket again. And so, why is that? Why were those Americans, protected and saved? Because Tom Goettke did what nobody else was able to do. Now, I'm the obstinate colonel at the time who kind of fought. Probably one of the reasons I never get promoted again. But, but I didn't do the work. I just broke glass and hurt people's feelings and stuff like that. And they gave me some bureaucratic thing that nobody could ever solve. And Tom solved it in probably 10 days. It was a pain. It was a pain. I know it was. I didn't do anything. I just gave it to Tom. And then kind of the last thing about Tom, to talk about intensity and how smart he is. So spring of 2013, we've been in Afghanistan for 9 months and had some major issues, major issues up north of the Coast Guard does road, the mountains, stupid things going on. And so I got mad, and so I was like, okay, I took my Brigade XO, and I'm like, sent him back up to Gardez, and I had Tim Sullivan and Command Sergeant Major Eric Crabtree in my office. And I just kind of let them know, I'm mad, I'm sick of it, I'm sending the XO to Gardez. And they're like, you can't redeploy a brigade and fight out of Afghanistan without an XO. They're like, I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, who's gonna be the XO? And Tim and Eric Crabtree are upset with me. And I'm like, I'm gonna make Goettke the XO. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and they both look at me and they're like, yeah, that'll work. So I'm like, somebody go get Tom. And so Tom comes into my office, has no idea what's going on. Tom comes in, I'm like, hey, Tom, it's 10 o'clock. Like, Dave's going to Gardez tomorrow morning to be the battalion XO up there. You got from about 10 to 6 o'clock in the morning to figure out how to be the Brigade XO and redeploy the brigade and everything else you got. I'm like, you got any questions? And Tom's face was the same way it is right now. He's like, nope, sure, got it. I'm like, all right, see ya. And I can't do justice to how smooth things were. And Tom did this after Tim redeployed and after Eric Crabtree redeployed. I mean, it was like glass. Now, I never saw the duck's feet underneath the water. I have no idea what's going on. But I mean, literally gave Tom, you know I did that? Okay. But, you know, just ambushed him. It's like, Tom, you're Brigade XO. You're the most powerful major in the brigade right now. The other 27 are all answering to you right now. Just crushed it. Just crushed it. And so that's Tom Goettke. Tom Goettke got stuff done. Was a great leader. But my last thing, and I talked to him about this, I think when we talked this summer, you know, Tom's retiring as a colonel. I retired as a colonel. Tim retired as a colonel. A bunch of other retirees in here at different ranks. But Tom and I both got to know a guy named Bob Caslin. Bob Caslin's a retired 3-star general, retired as a superintendent at West Point. Bob Caslin was my major during Desert Storm, one of my majors during Desert Storm. He's an intense dude. You think Tom's intense? Tom's nothing compared to Bob Caslin. He's got crooked fingers from getting stuck in face masks playing football for West Point. And during Desert Storm, for some reason, Caslin, you know, I was a second lieutenant. Caslin decided to share with me. He's like, RJ, no matter whatever happens in the Army, if you retire as a 4-star general, the only thing that matters when you have your retirement ceremony, you walk off that parade field, is that the only people left up there was you and your family. I was single. I'd signed 50 blank checks to my girlfriend, you know, before I went to the Gulf War. I wasn't planning on getting married, but I did marry her 32 years ago. But that stuck with me forever, that Caslin told me that when it's all said and done, when you retire from the Army, the only thing that's left with you is your family. And, you know, I was happy it happened to my family, and I told Tom, you know, when we first talked last summer, and Heather, I'm kind of ambushing you with that right now, but everything Tom did in the Army, everything you guys did, you retired, you got your family, and that's the most important thing. Settle back here in Cincinnati, and the Lily Bridges are in Nashville, because Georgia's from there, and I didn't get a vote, but it's all good. So, very proud of you, man. That's
Stand by one.
Award LOM. Colonel Sullivan will now read this citation.
Attention to orders. The Legion of Merit is awarded to Colonel Thomas A. Goettke for exceptionally meritorious service over a distinguished 25-year career while serving in positions of increasing responsibility, culminating as the Divarti Commander. Colonel Goettke's expertise, dedication to duty, excellence, and selfless service exemplifies the highest degree of professionalism. His distinguished accomplishments across the span of his career reflect great credit upon himself, the 10th Mountain Division Artillery, the 10th Mountain Division, 18th Airborne Corps, and the United States Army. Signed, Christopher T. Donahue, Lieutenant General, U.S. Army Commanding.
Heather, come on up, and Lily Avery, come on up here real quick. We're gonna get it. Yeah. Come on up, guys. Come on up, guys.
You're invited.
You too there, narrator.
Am I out? Oh, okay.
Just, RJ, help us hold.
All right, RJ.
Got it?
Who are we looking at?
Corey.
All right, all good. Okay, all right, one more.
Don't run away.
forgot I had video for a second.
All right, good to go. RJ, you're up.
Today, Colonel Goettke will receive a certificate of appreciation from the President of the United States that reads, I extend to you my personal thanks and sincere appreciation of a grateful nation for your contribution of honorable service to our country. You have helped maintain the security of the nation during a critical time in its history with a devotion to duty and a spirit of sacrifice in keeping with the proud traditions of military service. Your commitment and dedication has been an inspiration for those who will follow in your footsteps, and for all Americans who join me today in saluting you for a job extremely well done. My best wishes to you for happiness and success in the future. Signed, President Joe Biden. Certificate of appreciation from the Chief of Staff of the United States Army that reads, on the occasion of the retirement of Colonel Thomas A. Goettke from active status with the United States Army, you have earned our grateful appreciation for your unselfish, faithful, and devoted service. Your unfailing support and understanding helped to make possible his lasting contribution to our nation. Lastly, Colonel Goettke is now being presented his retirement flag, signifying his countless sacrifices.
Hold up, RJ.
Lastly, Colonel Goettke is now being presented his retirement flag, signifying his countless sacrifice to our grateful nation and its people.
I'm trying to line up for the photo.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Thomas A. Goettke, Colonel, United States Army, retired.
Just spare me a few minutes. I've got a couple of comments. The first thing I'd like to do is several folks appeared throughout this ceremony. I told you I had a problem with punctuality in retirement, so we waited as long as I could stand, but then we started. So I'm just going to go around the room and introduce a few folks who made it here today, and just want to extend my appreciation to them. Now, in no particular order, first I'd like to recognize Lieutenant Colonel Vince Castor, retired Special Forces officer, classmate of mine, very good guy. We served together. We really struggled together as Vince was at Co-ops and I was at G3. But Vince, I appreciate you making it down. The second guy, and I haven't heard his voicemail in a while, but the Alabama Bassmaster, Randall Lovelace, my first sergeant from Alpha Battery 2320. Alpha Gators dominate. John Montgomery, a peer of mine who served with me in 3rd 320th. And then later, we were both Brigade XOs. He was a Brigade XO of Currahee, and I was Brigade XO at Roxon. Some unforgettable moments, but John's originally from Florence, Kentucky. Made it back up, currently lives in Clarksville, so appreciate you making it up, John. You saw Tim Sullivan read the citation. My boss has an S3, and then also the DCO, the Deputy Commander of the Rockasson Brigade, along with Colonel Lill, who was my battalion and brigade commander. So gentlemen, Tim flew in from New York. and RJ drove up from Nashville. Just appreciate you being here and being a part of this and kind of closing this out correctly. So thank you. So last night I was down at Nippert Stadium watching the Elder Muller game and get a text from Maddie Work. Said, hey, I heard you're retiring tomorrow. My daughter plays St. Ursula. I was like, oh, hey, man, come by, Maddie. We shared some great times out on the Army football field. For the record, I'll let you all be the judge, but when I first introduced Matt to my mom, she said he's a doppelganger for Tom Cruise. I don't believe it, but I leave the judgment up to you. Maddie, great seeing you, man. Thanks for being here. And then one by one, just gonna go around the room. Koger, like day one, Koger and I were in the same. We were in Sister Beast squads at West Point, and Kevin's a Secret Service agent right now over on the East Coast. Yeah. But really, if you're in for a good conversation, the least politically correct person in the room by far. Yes, that's a statement, by the way. That is a very high bar, and I'm very confident that he can reach it. But Kevin has come to every ceremony of mine, especially up at Fort Drum, and I don't mean to get him all red in the face, but just we'll just make the trip, just show the support. Awesome to have you here, and just appreciate you coming out. Has the best Army-Navy tailgate on earth. Everybody, like, it kind of doesn't want to be associated with it because of the crowd, but everybody shows up. Everybody shows up to Koger's Army-Navy tailgate. I promise you that. Cheers, Kev. Great to see you, man. Nate Hunterton, another buddy of mine who we've known since the inception of West Point. Nate was our team captain. Have a number of experiences, especially after we made it through. Nate and I went to the Ranger Regiment selection together, and then after we kind of find out, we got the thumbs up. We went out to Arby's and had a 10 for 10 to show you the impact. Not that this is an economics class, but it's currently their 2 for 7. That shows you kind of a little bit of an economics lesson, a little bit of how old we are. But Nate, I've always one of the more colorful guys who has an incredible memory and can recall anything, even the things that you don't remember or potentially never happened. But Nate always is good for a few memories. So Nate, coming from Las Vegas, so flew in from Las Vegas for this, and I hope you guys are staying for the whiteout tonight. It's gonna be awesome. And Koger, just wait till we get wait till you see the entry song. Yeah. Oh man, it's gonna be good. And you'll particularly enjoy it. Going over here, Gary Williams. Gary is everybody's favorite studio audience. The guy, he's the most fun guy to hang out with because he's the most cheerful, joyful guy. He will laugh at anything, and he's just got an infectious attitude, and everybody wants to hang out with Gary because it's always a good time. Gary was a receiver on our team. Did awesome, had an awesome career, lives down in Dallas, has a great place, and always in the mix. Always in the mix, and always there in support. G-Dub, great to see you, my man. And Clay Daniels, who most of you know. Clay is from Kansas City, lives out there, has his own business out there, served as a Special Forces officer. I'll talk more about Clay here in a few minutes with some of my comments. But Clay, great to see you. I'm really rooting for the Royals. in the playoffs. But you know, the Bengals did lose to the Chiefs. We bet something every time they play. So it's double or nothing in the playoffs this year. Yeah. So more to follow on Clay Daniels, but he's a legend, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of guys in here know Clay. So what I think I do here is, you know, I'm not going to start. It was a cold fall day back in October of '77. You know, but I will go through. There's a number of things. You know, I'm really big in, hey, what's the distilled wisdom of 25 years in the Army? And you pick many things up. There's too many stories to tell. It's for a later time. And I'm sure these gentlemen imbibe in stories all day long. And I don't know half the things that Colonel Will brought up in his remarks. But I do have a couple of things that I think are probably noteworthy that I've learned along the way or that I've experienced. And the first thing was that when we were all playing football, all my teammates here didn't really put much thought into the Army. You know, we all took it seriously. We all knew we were going to be lieutenants, but it wasn't the Army that West Point teaches you is kind of dumb, right? You just don't get it's not the real Army, right? You get to learn how to shine your shoes and march in lines and do all this stuff, and like, it's great and all, it's part of the process, but it wasn't real, you know? And so Clay and I, we coached together. Nate, Koger, you guys were down at the prep school. GW, you were down at the prep school. So, you know, that was a pretty awesome first assignment. And then we kind of went through the schools, and you see some of the pictures up here, Clay. I got some great pictures of me and you and Go Fasters. September 11th happened the day that Clay and I got back from Florida. We walked back from the Florida swamps in the last phase of Ranger School on September 10th that evening. And the next day, I remember I got a care package from Aunt Sherry and Uncle Paul, which was a monster, and we were just we're crushing it. We woke up that morning, and Clay and I were just like sitting in the wet grass, eating like chewy bars, eating anything that we could. And then September 11th happened. And they kind of locked down Eglin Air Force Base. And we really didn't do much. We kind of just sat in the grass because there were armed guards up, and I'll spare all the details. But at the end of the day, that evening, they piled us all into the theater to kind of give us an update. And the battalion commander of 6th RTB at the time, he kind of got up in front of everybody and factually laid out what went down and kind of where things are right now. And he looked out in the crowd and he said, a lot of you guys came here because you wanted to challenge yourself. And he goes, but now you have a moral obligation to serve. He goes, because you're trained. And I'm not sure if anybody, I'm not sure if anybody's ever been struck by lightning on the road to Damascus. But I hope that everybody gets a chance to feel that feeling. That's what that was for me. It was like, hey, he looked around at the room. He said, I guarantee every one of you guys in this room is going to see combat. And for me, that was it. It was like, okay, this is serious. It's on. I was super confident in my skills. I was super confident in all the training that I had. But man, that was like ringing the Liberty Bell inside my head, and it was great because I had absolute clarity of focus and purpose moving forward. Now I'll spare the how I ended up getting Korea as an assignment story just because Nate's here. That's a story over a beer another time. That I don't think is funny, but these guys think is hilarious. So I went to Korea, and got stationed up with the 506, which is north of the Imjin River. So you're essentially like the speed bump for the North Koreans if they come across. You know, it's 4 infantry companies up there. And, you know, I realized that this is actually pretty fun. Like what we do, my job is actually pretty awesome. And it's challenging, and it's exceptionally hard to do very well. Like to do this, to be a leader and do an exceptional job is very hard. And something about that just enamored me. It drew me to it. And I love that. I said, you know what, hey, this could be something that I could do long term. And so I decided to put my packet in. Rangers flew me out. I tried out for regiment, and Nate was there. We kind of went through, and the rest is history. But the competency that was demanded from a leader, it just like drew me and just trapped me like a Venus flytrap. Like, you have to be good at this. It is a moral obligation for a leader to be good at what they do because people's lives are at stake. And to earn the respect of your NCOs, a guy like Randall Lovelace or your soldiers, is the ultimate compliment. Respect is the ultimate currency. And you have opportunities abound in the Army to do that and prove yourself. And I loved that. I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. And I just never thought I would be there. I never thought that it would kind of unfold like that or formalize like that. So then I went to the Ranger Regiment. And it was a whole different level of challenge and accountability. And the fact that, kind of very similar to Mikey Stadium, you have to bring it every day in that organization, or you get called out and you get put in your place. And the culture there, I just appreciated it. I appreciated the effort, and there was just nothing else. It's like everything else is kind of sidelined except for the sole purpose, laser beam focus on your job, to be good at what you do. And I'll tell you, it's orders of magnitude harder to earn people's respect in that organization than it is, I would say, in the conventional Army. It's hard enough in the conventional Army, but in that organization, like if you are not bringing your A game every second, like somebody's gonna poke you in the chest. And to me, that was like, okay, game on. I love this. And one of my best friends, Graham White, who's not here today, is the Chief of Staff of 25th ID currently. We were in the same company. We were roommates. We had been teammates for 4 years. And I just kind of looked at each other and was like, hey, man, we can kill this. And that was just so motivating me to have one of my brothers, there with me, and in a very critical point in time. And I'm not going to sit here and tell stories, but just the almost like you rehearse out on the football field, and then on game day you have to implement what you rehearsed, whether that be a play or reading a defense or performing some kind of action or task. It was in the Ranger Regiment where my education and training and the number of hours that I invested and the competency that I built formalized into real action in combat. And I'm telling you that's one of the things that is very hard to describe. And one of the things that I was very careful about throughout my career, because I was super confident in what I could do. And when you're at that level mentally, not a whole lot of people are with you there, right? And so you can't you've got to build people up to that level and get them on the same frequency as you, or you're gonna get somebody killed. And that happened in the Ranger Regiment, where you team built and you got everybody on the same page. And just the realization of all of that training and practice into execution in combat, it was, again, super motivating to me. The reason I stayed in the Army at that point in my career, you're talking, maybe 4.5 years in, is because I look back on my time, the time that I had spent in the Army, and kind of chunked it out into year time blocks. And the experiences that I was provided, that I was offered, year to year, I was unrecognizable from like when I graduated West Point to going through the schooling to my end of my tour in Korea to the end of my tour in the Rangers. I mean, unrecognizably a different person. I felt it. I experienced it. I knew more. I was like running on a treadmill at 15 miles an hour, and like I just felt like I was in the game. And to me, that was just infectious, right? Like there was almost like the Army, if you got a lot of energy, and I did, I had so much energy coming out of me, it's like Willy Waterbug, right? Just squirting out of my ears. The Army's got a bottomless pit for you, right, to fill. And that's kind of how I felt, but I felt the upside. I couldn't even see it, but I was just growing and growing and growing, and I liked it. I appreciated it. I wanted more opportunities. But the other thing that leaves me in that period of time is just the development of a sense of profession. While I was at Haditha Dam, Russ Ripito, who RJ is named after, was killed about 15 miles away. And later, on the 26th of June, Graham got blown up. And so the two guys that I was closest to and that kind of brought me in to the Ranger Regiment, one was dead and one was, they were bringing him back to life. And it had a long road to recovery. And thankfully he's killing it now. But it really makes you think, like, hey, what are you doing? It really kind of makes you question, like we're not messing around here. You're either in this 100%, like Nestea plunge. You can't. There's no being half pregnant here, right? You got to be all in. And so, the other thing I appreciated about that period of time was just the reflection that you had on things like that. Like, why are you doing this? And you really had to look at yourself in the mirror and challenge yourself to be doing it for the right reasons. And so I felt like that brought me to a deeper state of maturity in my approach. After that, we got married. We moved out to Fort Sill. We'll just nothing significant to report there. We'll move on to. I don't want to be. We got places to be, so I can tell stories all night, and we'll save that for later. Except I had kind of a new life, right? I had a wife, and part of that, integrating her into this lifestyle, is not an easy thing. Deployed while I was on staff the first time in the 101st, and that was a rough go, if you remember that. I thought we had a pretty good situation, but the 50 months I was assigned to the 101st, during that period, I was deployed 27 of them. Took command of, I have my two Ranger Company commanders are both general officers right now. So I feel like I had a very big advantage, learning from them. And they told me, hey, Tom, just stay in the Army to command, and you'll really know if you want to do this long term. And the day I took command at Delta Company, that was, I knew it. Commanding an organization is, it's the greatest privilege that a country can bestow upon one of its citizens. It really is. Because it takes everything you have, everything about you is invested in that. And I couldn't get enough of it. It wasn't even work. I mean, it was so much fun. Colonel Little can tell you, like, we played football 3 times a week. You know.
Never won your trophy.
But there's a reason, right, for song? Well, it's called Gator Ball, right?
That's right.
I couldn't have asked for a better experience to be the commander of 2 awesome organizations. In fact, I call the period where we went to DC my alien period. Because I went there and people want to talk to you, hey, this guy just went to the surge in Iraq and got all this, did all this stuff. And, I had very good characterization of like my experience. Even though it was tough, it was dangerous. The soldiers did great. And like people like jaw dropping, they're like, who the hell is this guy? We don't say that. Like, that's not the narrative. So I was kind of in a bit of bizarro world in that assignment. I see you laughing, Vince. But moving forward, I did learn quite a bit. I got to experience things that most majors don't. And honestly, you find a way to be successful on a big staff like that. And I think that was a skill that translates to being a major. Hey, you just got to find a way to be successful. So I reached out to Colonel Willis, said, hey, I want to come back. And the lesson I learned in my second assignment with the Rakasans is, how do you compete professionally? How do you take a group of 27 or whatever, 34, whatever the number is, majors, and compete to be the best while supporting everybody else and accomplishing the mission and keeping the unit at the forefront of everything that you do? That's a very hard thing because it can get very cutthroat and very competitive. And I will tell you, as a major, the knife is sharp. And everybody knows it. But when you learn how to do that, it's a distinguisher, right? It distills you from others. And then the second thing from that is leading your peers is the hardest thing that you will do. It's easy to lead. You got platoon sergeants, platoon leaders, like you outrank them, you have command authority by law. But when you have to lead your peer, and you have to kind of mostly just by who you are and how you act, it's a hard thing to do. So I appreciated being a Brigade XO because that's the essence of peer leadership. Went to Europe. In one sentence, I've never been prouder to be an American in my whole life. Then I went on to battalion command. And everything that you've wanted, you've learned or wanted to fix in an organization in 17 years, all the baggage that you have, right? Okay, now it's on you to fix. You got a 627 person organization, and hey there, Skippy, time to get it on, right? Ain't so easy, right? And so it's kind of a lesson. I will tell one story. Second day in command, or it's 2 days before command, I'm out running around. I wander up to my future battalion's motor pool, and it is a nightmare. I mean, I came to the realization that I could spend 2 years in this organization and perhaps inch forward on our maintenance status because it was in such a arrears. But you have to be the commander that your organization needs. Okay, so you do an assessment and become the leader that's going to, whatever it's going to take to make that organization better, you have to be it now. Went on on to be the G3 after that, where I worked with Vince, and that was an incredibly tumultuous time. We had some, there she is. But you got another chance to reflect, and I thought I left battalion command at a solid B-. After being a G3, I would downgrade that to a solid C- in battalion command, because it's really, really hard to be a good leader. But I learned a ton from that. Went off to the War College. I'll spare you the details, but went to work in the Army Secretariat. And as a major, you have a portfolio and you're kind of head down and arms on the oar. Hey brother, I just need you to row and do this list of things, all right? As a colonel, you kind of have your periscope up a little bit more and you get to see some of the larger ugliness, the underbelly of the Army and how it runs and the interaction between the senior Army leaders and civilians that have the authority over the Army. And gosh, a PhD level education in civil military relations, working out there, incredibly ugly. Wouldn't want to do it again by a long shot, but part of the career path, and made me a better leader, because again, you just got to find a way to be successful. Nobody really cares that you don't like it, right? You have a job to do, and you guys visited me while I was down there. It wasn't the greatest. It wasn't the greatest of times, but I had brigade command on the horizon. And I will tell you, being a brigade commander was the best assignment I ever had, because I got to employ all of the lessons that I learned, all of the things that I had experienced, I could put to work in that. And I wish Andy Harris was here. He was going to come, but he was the G3 when I was brigade commander. We were roommates up at Drum. But you want to talk about making an impact? I mean, you were fortunate enough to be in a position to make an impact, and it was it was my favorite assignment because of that. And kind of that's what I miss already, is being that and having that kind of influence on people and giving them opportunities and just making ass kickers. And so now we have to do that at our Lady of Victory 5th and 6th grade football team. That's it. Instead, make some men there. I really want to appreciate everybody coming out today. I'd ask you to engage some of these guys who came from far away, because you guys know me really good. These guys know me in kind of a different context. Well, there's a lot of great stories to treasure among the groups in this room. So please enjoy yourself. We will promptly end the formal portion of this ceremony by singing the 101st song and the 10th Mountain Song. And Clay, I left the story out, but I'll come back to it. So all the planes were grounded on September 11th. So, and Sharon, Uncle Paul, you sent me like 36 boxes of Chewy bars, and there was one 96-ounce jar of peanut butter. And since all the planes were grounded, we couldn't jump back into Benning, and we had to take a bus. So we left Eglin Air Force Base, and Clay and I ate the jar of peanut butter with our fingers in the back of the bus. We're pretty nasty, but it was good. We crushed it. I don't even think we left the parking lot before that 96-ounce thing was gone, but a lot of memories, a lot of great stuff seeing all these guys, but appreciate everybody coming, and appreciate your support over the last quarter century. And right now, just moving forward, going to look to serve in all different kind of capacities here in the community and at home. Let's wrap this up. indication that you spoke too long. The computer times it out. All right, if I could ask, we're just going to ad-lib this. Yeah, there we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the benediction given by Lillian Goettke and remain standing for the playing of the 101st Airborne and 10th Mountain Division songs.
This momentous day of transition, continue to bless our families and our communities to live and work in your name. Continue to bless our veterans and let their legacy of service inspire others. We pray for a peaceful resolution to conflict around the world and for those still struggling in our own country in the aftermath of this past week's weather. Finally, let us all have an attitude of gratitude for being alive in good health and in good company, and for the blessing of living in the greatest country on earth. Amen.
I'm going to interject here. Served in the 101st. Please come up front. A couple of us. Come on, Matt. You were in future heaven.
I'm not sure we remember the song.
Yeah, it'll come back. It'll come back. Go ahead, Avery.
We have a rendezvous with destiny. Our strength and courage strikes the spark that will always make men free.
Assault!
Right down through the skies of blue. Keep your eye on the job to be done. We're the soldiers of the 101st. We'll fight till the battle's won.
You can cut it there. First stanza over. Colonel Sullivan. I think we're the lone. Yeah, come on up. All right, Avery, cue.
You guys are going to carry this one.
We are the 10th Mountain Infantry with a glorious history. On our own 2 feet, all our foes will defeat. The light fighters marching on to victory. We know where others dare not go. In the heat or cold of snow, we are proud to be in the army of the free. Climb to glory, mountain infantry. Climb to glory, the light infantry.
I'm really carrying that.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our ceremony. At this time, you are invited to socialization and refreshments while congratulating Colonel Goettke. Climb to glory.
To the top. All right.